Hello everybody and welcome to Encounter Roleplay. My name is Will, I'm a D&D sex icon, and I'm back today with a full cast and crew of The Long March Kingmaker for another episode of our dark fantasy adventure. So let's go around, let's figure out who we are and who we'll be playing today. And let's start with our Dungeon Master, Josh. How you doing, my friend?
I am very confused. I'm now on a new computer and I have dual monitors and I don't know how it works. So guys, if you see me just looking absolutely confounded at any point, that's because I have no idea where I've put stuff. Because, shut up, Tia. I don't know how to do, but I'm going to try. I'm going to try for you guys. Really looking forward to tonight. We've got some great stuff for you and some terrible stuff for the cast. So let's go around and find out who will be suffering today.
Let's do that. Let's talk about suffering. We have Tool School with us tonight. Tool School, how you doing, my friend?
I am doing good. Let me know how my audio is sounding. If it's seeming like it's a little bit weird or off, and I can start playing with stuff. But I am Tool School. I'm happy to be here, and I am playing Calvin, who is our human bard. He's just a southern guy out here to see what this is all about, and we are gonna have to see, because I believe I am like being taken to not good places right now. So. There we go.
Great stuff. We also have Jess with us tonight, Little Cup of Joe. How you doing, Jess?
I am doing great. As I said, I am Jess. I play Lucy, the war wizard from Breckendale, which is a terrible thing to be right now in this campaign. So we'll see what happens.
Oh, sorry, I am super laggy. I've had a bunch of problems with my internet the past few days. So if I break up a little bit, but we have Laurelani with us tonight. Laurelani, how you doing?
I'm great, and I am definitely not muted. Hi, how's it going? I am good. I'm happy to be back here. I've started my Tuesdays with going over characters. A lot of people were just here from my channel, and we were talking about Sarah and all the cool things hopefully we can potentially do with her. She is my level 5 fighter, my 14-and-a-half-year-old young girl that I'm going to be playing, and yeah, it's great. Will's birthday is this Friday. That's going to be a fun thing. Be there for that.
Totally remember that. Yep, I knew that was happening. Yeah, as for myself, I will be playing Curtis Fearson, the human rogue of the team, diplomat/spy, ready to do whatever is necessary to save Rivercroft. Did I get a name right? Did I remember a name from a whole week ago? God damn, I'm a good Dungeons and Dragons player. Before we get into today's game, I remind you guys we're sponsored by Fantasy Grounds, our virtual tabletop of choice. All of the maps, tokens, roles, and images that you see are from Fantasy Grounds, which you guys can check out for free. We play a plethora of different role-playing games using the Fantasy Grounds system, so definitely check it out. Also, we're sponsored by Wayland Games. You can check out all of their miniatures, D&D books, and swag for 20% off over at waylandgames.co.uk. Of course, you guys can interact with today's show as we go throughout as well. If you haven't followed yet, hit the follow button and join us. We hit our next follower goal. You guys get to decide what happens next in our campaign. Also, here is the tweet for you guys as well, and at 20 retweets, we'll have another viewer decision where you guys can help screw the party over, or help us if you're feeling like that. Also, there is the donate button for you guys. You guys can give us wild magic surges, nat 1s, nat 20s, so many worse things. Speaking of which, Isriva has given Sarah 2 wild magic surges, and Catalyst Creations has given Sarah 1 wild magic surge. So that's 3 wild magic surges for Sarah, just to kick things off, just to make things interesting. But I will hand over to our Dungeon Master, Josh, to remind us what happened last week on the show and to take us into this episode.
Am I supposed to know the answer to that? Ah, damn. Okay, right. Well, last week, I'm going to ad-lib all of this. I'm going to make it all up as I go. Last week on the show, we had the party deciding how they were going to find their way into the castle at Rivercroft. Basically, their plan is to confront the prince and relay a message that was passed on to them about an assassination and an ambush that happened on some kind of a place called Farmer's Rest. They don't know much about what's going on, other than it appears to be agents of the agents of the crown who have been attacked and murdered. So this is going to be this is going to be interesting. They've got to find their way into a castle, which they have no business being in. They have come up with some interesting plans. One of them has already begun. Tall Squall, aka Calvin, our bard, and his what did you say, squire? Was that what you passed Sarah off as? I believe it was squire. Yeah, her squire. His squire was. They went to see about some elves that were giving away sort of luxury food, and we're in the middle of a famine at the moment, so it's very important that everyone remembers that food is a luxury resource at the moment. It is worth more than gold, and they were giving out sort of fine dining experiences, like small portions, but they were giving them out as part of the festivities for the upcoming coronation. So two of the party members decided that they'd make the food seem contaminated, and did it so blindingly well whilst impersonating one of the royal guards that Calvin was rushed to the castle, fearing the local guards, fearing that it was an assassination attempt against Calvin, presuming Calvin to be much more important in the guard than they are, as he bore the royal sigil, and they got in that way. And a dear friend, the happy couple, Curtis and Lucy, they had a different plan, which was to contaminate the food, try and grab some of the food, bring it back to someone called Artie Remo, who's sort of the local con man. And in exchange for bringing him some luxury food, which could sell for a pretty penny, he would get them an audience with Stavros, who is the spymaster in the castle they're trying to meet. So the party is currently split, but it's all gone a bit Pete-tong for Calvin and Sarah, who witnessed there was a cleric went rampant through the infirmary and killed someone nearby, which is pretty terrible. And also, we've got we've got them being found out that they are not actually who they are impersonating. They're not in the Royal Guard. They have no reason to be there, and they are under arrest. But they have conveyed that they have important information. How much has been believed, we're not entirely sure. Back with Curtis and Lucy, they have decided that they're going to try a different tack, with Lucy knowing someone, a kind, lovely elven woman whose husband is in the Guard, who believed that Lucy was going through some troubles, shall we say, and that she sort of extended a helping hand, said, if you ever need anything, come see me, my husband's in the Guard. So they're going to try and get in that away. We're going to pick up with them in just a moment, but first of all, yeah, hooks, plugs, all that good stuff. There we go.
No, we're ready to rock and roll, my friends. We've got some surges that we could read out to begin with, though.
Indeed.
Because Tia's got a total of 5 here. Thank you, Nogabert, for that most recent donation.
So,
let's go for yours.
The entire area swirls with fine white powder. Caster prefers not to cast magic while it's raining. Is that rain I hear? Caster, this is a good one for me. Caster loses only 1 hit point for the next 3d8 attacks upon them. So I'm going to roll that 3d8 and make Sarah the bossiest of bosses.
Right.
Oh,
Tanking
wait, are you serious?
I'm so
Fucking wrecked.
I'm so
I could have been invincible.
Pride before a fall.
The worst. Caster can stretch her arms 2 times the length of her body. That's a thing.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You just became Elastigirl.
Those kids are so double jointed these days.
I cannot wait to find out how that comes into play.
Just to stretch, he's a rubber band in a heat wave.
Calvin, please.
Oh no.
Target's hands are encased in thick blobs of candle wax. 3 ones, really? 3 ones.
Yep.
Okay, right. So let me see. Thick blobs of candle wax.
Didn't she have molasses on her weapons the last time?
Yeah. So
Yes.
Yeah,
your
I keep them all written down.
molasses covered sweet-covered weapons have now basically stuck your hands together. Like, you are just coated, absolutely coated in what is like sugary, sweet stuff of some kind. Okay, right. What else do we have? Sorry, let me. I need to. Can I have these written? Can I have these written down for me?
They're all written down in the chat. The last wild magic search, which is for me, is that tomorrow I meet someone who I know to be dead.
Ah,
tomorrow I'm gonna meet someone I know is dead.
Good Lord.
Okay.
I can think of a thing about the arms, but you don't want to hear it.
When Squall says you don't want to hear it, that's it. Really want to hear it.
That's it. The stretching rack was what I was thinking. A way to make. I mean, she's literally just been caught in a castle with no permission to be there. Okay, so we'll get to those in a minute.
Thanks, Squall. Thanks, buddy, for letting me know you're with me in this campaign as well.
What I will tell you, Sarah, is that you have an understanding that magic is dangerous to cast outside in the rain, specifically in thunderstorms, as you've heard legend that supposedly people get struck by lightning and stuff like that. Like, it's just dangerous. Now, you can't cast yourself, but it is something to bear in mind that it is incredibly dangerous to cast magic while it's raining, while it's overcast, anything cloudy that looks like it could be a storm. Oh, my God. Thank you so much, guys, ladies and gentlemen, for all of your donations. Yeah, so, right.
Keeping it interesting.
Indeed. Yeah. So...
Is it more fun to see what happens to the player, or see Josh try to make sense of that with his poor campaign?
Yeah, I got it.
What's the real bonus here?
So, we've got all of that, and I'll get past that. Okay, cool. So, we're going to pick up away from the wild magic cacophony that is Sarah's life, and we're going to cut to Curtis and Lucy now. You should be able to see the map in front of you. We've got...
Drop a reshare on us.
Let me... There we go. That should be everyone now. Yeah. There we go. So, you guys were just coming into the main sort of guard post, which is just a small outpost, almost like a bunkhouse, where the local guard force, which, as previously mentioned, aren't your average local guard. They're definitely not local to this area. They're probably mercenaries and sellswords that have been hired to sort of bulk up the local guard numbers, as there has been a huge influx of tourists coming in this direction. So the local guards don't know the area particularly well, and they're all bunking together. It's a bit chaotic, and a lot of them are sleeping in their own place, but this establishment here that you're coming to, this outpost here, seems to actually be guards who are local to the area. These seem to be the few that are sort of in charge of coordinating everything. And you are greeted by an elven woman who recognizes you immediately, Lucy, and casts a glare of shade towards Curtis, seemingly unimpressed with seeing him again.
Hello. Do you mind if we talk for a moment?
Of course.
Don't worry. We're fine. We've sorted it out.
Right. Okay.
We could actually use your help with something else, if that's all right.
Of course. Please come in. I was actually just visiting. I'll introduce you to my husband.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you so much.
She waves you in, and there's a lot of there's tables that are spread out that have different patrol routes and stuff like that, which some people see you coming and roll up, so you're not able to just sort of look over. And people seem to be curious as to what you guys are doing there, but she leads you through to someone who's in the process of shaving. He's currently shirtless. He's got sort of like his arm was all laying next to him. It looks like he's only been up about sort of 10 minutes, and he's got a straight razor, and he's literally just a half-shaved face. The other half of his face still covered in shaving cream, and he turns blearily and sort of, hello.
Good. So sorry to interrupt the beginning of your day. Curtis, darling,
Yeah.
How do we begin?
We need a favor from you. And we're going to need it pretty quick.
He
Like now.
looks to his wife, and she sort of says, look, you know the lady I spoke about? They were the tavern, the ones, they were having some problem, and he sort of, right, okay, look, sweetheart, perhaps it's best if you head on home. I'll see what I can do for your friends. And he stands up, sort of wipes down, sort of, he's got like half a beard, but sort of wipes down his face, sort of dries it on his pants the best he can, puts out a firm hand and says, my name is Laken. I didn't catch your names.
Probably for the best. Listen,
Yes.
our friends' lives rely on us being able to get into the castle. They're not fugitives, but we need to get them out of there.
Roll me just a persuasion check. Straight off.
Oh, I'm good at that.
Oh, that's handy.
I've got to stop saying things like that, because...
Yes, we'll let Curtis do the persuading.
Looks like my sheet's done weird things. I have a +8 to persuasion. That is a 22.
That's 22. 22. I mean, regardless of sort of the role, he gives you an odd look, sort of mentioning, essentially, busting someone out of the prison. But don't worry, we swear they're not bad people. But he eyes his wife, who's in the process of leaving. She seems to shoot him sort of a timid, sort of apologetic, like, I'll make it up to you later. And he just sighs deeply and just says, look.
Just go break the law for me.
It just says, look, whatever they did, I'm sure, we don't have the capacity to hold people for particularly long. I'm sure they'll be out in a couple of days. But
there's
humour me.
We know about the fight that's going on, don't we?
Yes.
From the okay. I say cards upon the table. There's been an assassination of the royal couriers, messengers. We bring that knowledge. There are those within the castle who would seek for them to not bring the news to the prince. It's of utmost importance, and I'm going to show him the seal I carry.
As you flash this seal to him, sort of, and a mention of assassination, he sort of stiffens slightly and looks around, and you notice a few other guards who are in the process of sort of cleaning weapons and sort of tending to armor or scowling over maps. Seem to all their attention seems to divert in your direction, and suddenly you have a lot of silence to fill and a lot of eyes on you. And he sort of rubs half his face, realizes he's a bit of a mess, seems a bit sort of, right, hold on, back up. You said there'd been an assassination.
Yes,
how are your friends
right.
involved in this?
We rescued the survivor.
Yes, the courier stumbled in where we were at, and we sort of fell into the whole business.
Right. Look, what is it you're asking? I mean, who are these friends of yours?
Just get me inside the walls of the castle. then walk away from it all.
Fucking...
Yes.
Oh,
We just
simple
need to
as
get
that.
inside to find them.
He sort of... Look, that's a big ask. And he realizes a lot of guards are now looking at him as he's being asked to sort of smuggle people into the castle. And he says, look, Capazzo, Jenkins, you two, go take some of these lot out on patrol. I need to have a few quiet words. And they give him a second glance as if, are you sure this is smart to be talking to these? And he waves them away briskly and comes over and leans on the table that's got the maps and sort of local patrol routes and pushes most of it to one side. And underneath, almost sort of it's basically nailed into the table, is the local area, including a not entirely detailed sort of map of the castle, but it's got like sort of the vague, shows you where the walls, the entrances are, that sort of thing. And he sort of stands there, ponders, and says, "So, you said this was something that needs to happen relatively soon.
Right
How soon
now,
is soon?"
I'm afraid.
Right.
As soon as we can.
Yes.
Listen, if you love your king, if you love your country, then you should help us.
Yes, the sooner we get in, the better. We've got to pass this news on.
Give me another persuasion check, Curtis.
Whew. Oh, that's a D10,000. No.
That's
no,
a
please
D-
not
What an 8,666!
Is that really
He's,
wrong?
Dear God.
he reckons
22
you're consistent. You're consistent. I'll give you that. He looks at you and sort of like with a grim look, his eyes drift back to the seal. And he says, "Look, shit. I can get you in the walls, but I don't have permission to just go wander around the castle. You understand? Like, I'm not."
More. Once we're
That
in,
one.
you walk away from all of this.
All right. My son, I got him a job running errands to and from the castle from local taverns. He brings sort of food and wine deliveries, and mostly he's a useless layabout. But I tried to get him off his feet and out there in the world, but I'm guessing he's probably not yet up and at 'em and busy. Yeah,
Okay, so we can go instead.
I can say you're his replacement, I suppose, but once you're in the
Yes.
castle, they're going to ask questions as to who you are.
It's okay, we'll have answers.
Yes,
All right.
we'll sort that out.
He looks sort of worried, and there's one or two guards still left sort of the other side of the room by the doors who are in the process of sort of getting up and getting ready for their patrol as well, and they keep sort of glancing over, and he leans in and whispers to you guys and says, "Look, whatever this is, I'll help you get in. If it's important, if it's for the king, I understand. But I don't want any of this coming back on me. You understand?"
We
No,
never met you.
Of course not. Yes.
Right.
This
Well-
never happened.
And he sort of walks over to a desk, writing desk, and he begins to scribble up what is essentially a pass to get you in, to explain that you're replacements. He seals it with his own personal ring and folds it up roughly, hands it back to you, and just says, "Have you got something?" He looks you up and down, like something a bit more rough. You look a bit too pristine.
Yeah, I'll nod, and I've got disguise kit, so I'll do my best to disguise myself and Lucy into looking a little bit more like wastrels, street, that kind of thing. I mean, we're too old to really look like that, but sure.
Yeah, no. Give me a roll on disguise kit. So.
I'll use my deception, right, which is also +8.
Indeed.
Yeah, Lucy will Lucy will put her glasses away and kind of just muss up her bun even more. It's pretty sloppy in general, but now it's sloppier.
Yeah, it's even sloppier. Yeah, you guys do a passable rough man sort of. You pretty sure that you'll blend in with the common rabble, and he says, "Look, you have to wait around. You don't look half bad. Well, you look pretty terrible, but it actually works for you in this case. I'll
Thank you, I think.
You guys have to wait around maybe 10, 15 minutes, but you should be all right to slip in with the next group to go in. They'll have a wagon, and there'll be quite a large group. Just sort of stick in the middle and don't talk too much."
Understood.
This is my first rodeo. We'll be fine.
He nods and sort of, just don't do anything bad.
Yeah, come on. They'll be fine. We got this. We're professionals. At least one of us is.
He just sort of winces and, right.
I shall just follow his lead. As usual.
It's worked out well so far.
Well, he gestures for you guys to sort of dismisses you and says, and remember, you're just 2 replacements. You go and drop stuff off for the kitchen. You'll need some supplies round the back. There's not much left over, but just some bags, grain, stuff like that. And as you guys, you find it like a sort of like surplus that's left out the back of the guardhouse, and swing it over your shoulder and begin to make your way along. And you quickly find that there is a small convoy that is heading into the castle. The drawbridge is down. You haven't actually seen it raised at any point. Sort of, you can see the castle from sort of any direction. It's the largest structure. It's the tallest, being set on top of the hill. And as you're making your way across, there's the sound of the wooden wheels and the heavy cart going across the lower drawbridge. And there's that tense moment where, in sort of the rain, you can see ahead of you sort of this bleak sort of entranceway where there's a huge sort of castle gate. There are 2 royal guards armed on either side, and they're just staring at everyone who's coming forth. And it's a bit tense as you guys make your way through. But your disguises seem to hold up relatively well, and you enter the courtyard. But then everyone begins to disperse outwards. Now, at this point, sort of, you're in the main courtyard area, and you've got sort of, you're almost sort of central. You can see that there's, just ahead of you, there's the area where the coronation is going to take place. And at this point, they've erected sort of like, almost like temporary lean-to tents, but they're rather nice. You know, they're sort of huge slanted, almost gazebos that are covering sort of where people will sit, but it's still an outdoor event, and people are doing their best to sort of keep everything as dry as they can. You can see they're sort of rolled up the carpet and put it to one side, and they're hoping for better weather. And as you look around, people are either heading in that direction to seemingly bring forth stuff for the coronation, so bits and pieces, like maybe they're bringing in just sort of like additional cups or cutlery, or they're bringing, you know, decorations or cushions, or just anything that is needed to sort of dress the place up. But everyone in that direction seems to be being searched. In the other direction, most of them seem to be carrying similar things to you, sort of grain and that sort of thing. And they are also being searched as they're heading down towards the pantry area. But you're in a big open courtyard, and there seem to be plenty of places. Where specifically are you looking to go?
So we know that they went to the infirmary, right?
That's where we last saw them, I think.
That's where we last saw them. And that's when a fight broke out. And remind me what the last thing that we've seen from Calvin and Sarah is at this point.
The last thing you saw from them was them sort of almost being arrested and taken away. But you you can see that you can see that they had some kind of, there was a fight or something that broke out in the room, and it didn't seem to involve them. There was something to do with the cleric nearby, and you heard him cussing and screaming and him get injured by the local guards, as there was an arrest that happened alongside them that seemed to sort of split the forces. But it would appear their jig is up and they're being taken to see the spymaster. So where they are at the moment, you wouldn't necessarily know. Would you have had, Lucy, would you have had Sir Richard try and follow?
If there was a path he could take where he wouldn't be liable to get detected,
Okay.
yes.
Give me
if it's reasonable for that to happen.
Okay, give me a stealth check for Sir Richard, and I'll.
There we go.
On I believe they've got a +4 to stealth.
Yeah, I think so. I didn't grab his.
That's all right. So on a 16, he manages to make it most of the way. You know that it's on one of the upper floors, and it's in the northeastern corner. There's one of the huge towers that sort of make up one corner of the castle. He seems to have, the spymaster seems to have his chambers quite high up. You get most, like, Sir Richard gets most of the way, and then a guard spots him and shoots him away with the point of a weapon. And you know, Sir Richard's, he's brave, he's a champion mouser, but when it comes to sort of
he's not going to take on a guard.
No. And he's fled, and you know that now he's skulking around the castle, just looking for places to hide, to cause trouble, to chase mice, and also sort of waiting for you to either sort of give him the go-ahead to meet up with you, or...
Okay. So, a whisper into Lucian. So let's go find Sir Richard, and let's say that we're bringing supplies to Stavros.
That sounds like a plan. Do you think I should just go ahead and call him back, or shall we leave him where he is for now?
I'll leave him there for now. Might be more suspicious if anyone sees him walking around.
Fair enough.
All right, and
onward then.
Yeah, and the idea is heads down. Anyone asks, grunt something about going to see Stavros.
Okay. As you guys come into the main you're coming towards sort of the main storehouse, and you get to the stairs. There are guards who are waiting to sort of check people over, and you enter a bit of a queue, and it comes to the point where sort of you've got a few people to go. Are you planning to sort of try and talk your way through, or are you planning to sort of try and sneak past in any way, or is it?
What's the plan?
Yeah, I kind of, just before we turn the corner, how sneaky are you?
Not very, especially not with my glasses off.
Okay, can you do magic to get behind them? How much?
Well,
I'm gonna say the answer is no, but let me check.
Not really. I mean, I could make friends, shall we say, if we need to talk our way through, but somebody might notice that after a while.
Okay.
I can be decidedly unremarkable, and that's about it.
Okay, let's do that. I'll try and talk your way through.
Okay.
Well, I'll talk us through. And
yes, you
try to
talk.
be as unremarkable as possible.
I can do that. Remarkably well.
Unremarkable is exactly what we need.
Yes. Exactly.
Okay. I will step out around a corner.
And you are immediately way forward as the guys in front of you have just been sort of shooed on down a winding staircase, and they wave you over and gesture to the back. What are you carrying?
Oh, just some supplies for Stavros. We just were told to bring them here from the kitchen.
Stavros?
Yeah, that's the name we were given. Don't know who he is. Is he through here? Guard putting us this way.
Roll me a deception check as you... he sort of looks at you like...
Stavros! Sure!
Lucy's just looking like she's, you know, busy carrying things and trying not to... She's just eyes down, commoner.
That's a dirty 20.
He looks dubious, to say the least, but he turns to one of the other guards and says, "Wait here a moment. Come with me." And he doesn't lead you down that way. In fact, he leads you sort of back through the courtyard and through a separate door, sort of one of the archways, and through a winding set of corridors. Are you guys just following him?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yep.
Yeah, he leads you through sort of torchlit corridors, and there's some hustle and bustle. There's a lot of activity, a lot of people who look not quite as disheveled as you guys. You'll note that a lot of the workers around here look pretty clean cut, sort of a little bit more uniformed and professional than you guys do. You stick out. But there's a lot of guards, a lot of very well-armed guards in here. And as you're coming through, you see that there is a large sort of stairway that seems to be in sort of one corner, and they lead you over and they say, "Wait here. I need to check and make sure that you're expected." And there are two armed guards who are standing either side of the staircase. And he says, "Well, don't keep an eye on them." And the guards just nod and
My hands up like, "Hey, man."
Yeah, and you adjusted. There's a pew that you can take to sort of sit at the bottom of the steps, and he makes his way up the stairs. And we're going to cut away at this point to Calvin and Sarah, who find themselves. You guys are being rather rough-handedly dragged, essentially, through the through corridors and the like, and you get to the point where you are stopped, and someone comes up behind you and puts a bag over both of your heads, tying it quite taut round the neck. It's an unpleasant experience. It's to the point it's a Hessian bag, so you can see shapes vaguely out, sort of, especially when you go past the torch. You can sort of see a brief bit of your surroundings, but it certainly makes remembering sort of where you're being taken difficult. And yeah.
Can I still attempt to try and make a map in my head, regardless of how difficult it is?
Yeah, absolutely. Give me a perception check at disadvantage. And let's see how good you are at figuring all this out.
Disadvantage?
Yeah, disadvantage.
Okay. I couldn't argue perhaps for a survival? No, I guess that's outdoors.
Yeah.
I'm just on fire today.
On a 6, you're going along and sort of like you have that moment where you're pretty sure you're going down, and sort of you're trying to figure out, and then you're stopped, and you have that moment where you're trying to remember it all and everything, and then you feel like you're alone and you're standing sort of, you can feel Calvin standing next to you. Do you try and communicate with him at all?
No, this seems a little scary for Sarah. She's she might try and reach out and hold his hand with one of her sticky molasses hands.
Calvin
actually,
Calvin probably would put his hand on her shoulder, just feeling her small form beside him, just to sort of calm her a little bit.
Sarah, you go to grab Calvin's hand, sort of for reassurance, and find that the hand you grab is metal. Solid metal, like a plated gauntlet, and the hand slaps you away, and you hear a voice that most definitely isn't Calvin, tell you to get off, child. Calvin, as you go to
this
sort
opportunity for 1d4 rounds to throw my tantrum for the week.
Okay, no problem at all.
So for the next 30 seconds, Sarah is absolutely inconsolable. She throws herself down on the ground, rolling and screaming, "You can't do this to me! You can't make me go! I don't want to!"
Calvin, you hear this, but it's not nearby. And you suddenly realize that you have been separated from Sarah at some point. And you can hear her echoes of cries echoing through the halls, getting fainter, and then you hear the sound of a door slamming shut, and it all but cuts the sound out entirely. As the hand you sort of were reaching out to console who you thought was Sarah next to you touches an armed guard who shrugs your hand off and just says, "Don't go getting any ideas, pretty boy."
Well, aren't you just... Sorry, now I'm doing your voice. Well, aren't you just sneaky as a snake in the grass? Well, so, what's next?
I'm going to use stairs. And as you're sort of being walked along, suddenly your foot catches on the bottom step. And you almost sort of like go flying forwards and manage to steady yourself as you realize you've come to the foot of a staircase that leads up.
Well, up's better than down, I guess. But I guess that depends on if there's a noose up here at the top of this here staircase.
Well, you're not going to find out on the bottom step, are you, funny man? Well, chop, chop.
Off we go then.
And you feel something sharp and pointed pressed into your back as a sort of encouragement to keep a steady pace as you are marched blindfolded up a winding staircase. It's quite a wide staircase as well, with stone steps. And as you make your way up, we cut away to Sarah, Sarah, you are forcibly picked up and carried, kicking and screaming, by your legs and your arms, and at one point you are dropped on solid stone floor as, not intentionally, you just wriggle out of their arms and hit the floor, seemingly fine, and eventually one of them just has enough, grabs you by the ankle and begins to drag you by your ankle through this corridor. I'll save everybody's ears the screaming of terror that sets into Sarah, as she is still a small child, and while she puts on a tough front, having a bag put over her head and having no idea where she's going, she's terrified, and that's it, just screaming, wailing like a child. You are dragged into a room and finally swung across the floor, sort of swept into a corner, and you sort of hit the wall, and you hear the sound of a heavy door closing and being bolted, and someone then roughly pulls this bag off of your head, and you find yourself in a dark, slightly wet, horribly cramped room with a guard and some machinery.
What's going on? What do you want with me?
With you? Probably very little. Your leverage. Now come on. And he grabs you sort of by the arm and pulls you to your feet over towards something that you don't recognize immediately. Give me an intelligence check.
Not a save, just a check. Okay. Oh. Yeah,
this is a torture room. You realize almost immediately there is a stretching rack. There are hooks hanging from the wall that have encrusted red gore hanging from them in places. You can see that there are manacles on the walls, and you can see that there is what appears to be almost a coffin, but a stylized coffin that is standing up against one wall. But he is marching you over towards what looks suspiciously like it might be a stretching rack.
Sarah Steele's kind of coming to realization of what's happening. Now, you see, there's only 2 of us in here, and only one of us is going to be getting on that rack, and it certainly ain't going to be me. Intimidation?
You can try?
You can certainly try.
On a 22, he looks you up and down, and he just sort of... Tough kid. You can strap yourself in then. And he draws his sword. It is a short sword. It's not the finest, but he definitely seems to... He looks like a man who knows how to use it. And he's wearing some pretty heavy metal armor. This guy is better armored than you. You don't have any weapons upon your person at the moment. And you are locked in the room.
Maybe we got off on the wrong foot. I got money. I got lots of money. Something that can maybe take you away from the castle with you and your messes for a while?
Give me a persuasion check.
You have a holiday brochure for him. Would you want to get away on a tour?
On a 13, he doesn't seem very impressed. And he, with the tip of his sword, points you towards the rack. Jump on. Chop, chop.
You've got to be fucking crazy if you think that I'm getting on that rack. Voluntarily.
We can do this the easy way, or we can do this the hard way.
I think you're so tough picking on little girls. Someday the little girls are going to be the ones that are picking on you. She gets into the rack.
You climb on it. Basically, it's like a bed that's almost upright, sort of at a 45-degree angle, and it is incredibly uncomfortable. And there's a bar along the bottom where you basically a lip that you can stand upon. And as you sort of like shakingly get onto it, he comes towards you with the blade sort of pointed at you and says, "You're not going to give me any hassle now, are you?"
Well, I think that I am going to give you a whole lot of hassle. It doesn't matter what I say now, does it? It doesn't matter what I do or say or how I try to bribe you. You're just going to go on and do what you think is right. So go on, do it. Or do you not have the steel to pick on little girl?
He smiles and just says, "You know what? You're not half as whiny as some of the people we usually have in here. And make no mistake," he says as he comes over and takes your wrist and begins to strap it in place. "I take no pleasure in this. As long as your friend is all above board, and what he's saying, what he's selling is entirely legitimate, then he'll be fine. This is just a precaution." And he finishes strapping in sort of your other wrist and comes over to your feet and secures them in place really tightly, sort of like uncomfortably tightly.
I want you to know that whatever you do to me, well, many circles in hell.
Indeed. He walks over to a wheel with heavy wooden handles, and he puts one hand firmly on it, and there's no joy in his expression. He doesn't look like he's enjoying himself. He doesn't look like he's taking any pleasure in sort of like the sadistic side of it. He just looks like a man who has a job to do and really wants to be anywhere else but here, probably in the pub. he doesn't strike you as sort of the kind of malicious kind of man. And he says,
he's a detached sociopath who's doing his job. Sarah does everything to remember every detail of his face. And if there is any pain to come, she kind of hangs on to the concentration of him as the centering point.
He's got a patchy beard. He looks like he's probably quite... he's getting on a little, you know, he's sort of late 30s, maybe early 40s. He's got quite a nasty burn mark that seems to be worse than you can see the full details of, as it seems to come up from his neck and seems to be partially responsible for sort of the patchiness of his beard as it comes all the way up to his ear. Other than that, he's rather unremarkable. He has dark hair that seems to be thinning, which is swept back. He doesn't wear a helmet. And other than that, he's wearing Royal Guard's uniform, the full plate mail shebang. And any detail, I guess it's not necessary right now. I was going to say, as a soldier, just like, I want to try to learn everything I am about him, because I'm probably going to try and hunt him down and kill him later. But
one thing here is that Frofgar donates £10 and says, give her the boots. Presumably this means something. You guys.
I'm not. No. I don't understand this reference. No, we don't get this.
No, I don't understand.
We love you, but I have no idea what this is going on.
Are you talking about the weighted boots? Is that what he's...
Let us know in chat.
Rofgar, yeah, message me. But yeah, he secures you in place and he twists the wheel, and you just feel all slackness leave the restraints as the top half begins to extend, and you feel your shoulders creak and pop. Not out of place, you just feel cartilage sort of shift, and you feel it sort of in your knees as well. And it feels like he continues to twist, but you realize the twisting sound has stopped, and you realize it's just that pressure. He's sort of got you in a very uncomfortable position, maybe not damaged you too significantly. And with that, he shrugs, walks over, grabs a stool from the corner of the room, takes a seat looking at you, and pulls a knife out and begins to trim his nails, seemingly no longer interested in you in any capacity. We'll cut away there to Calvin, you suddenly realize that you are walking through a doorway. You catch your foot on the threshold, and you walk into a room where you can smell incense burning. And there's sort of the smell of paper behind that. You can see that there are lots of candles in this room. There's lots of light, but none of it seems to be natural. It all seems to be sort of candles and torches and that sort of thing. And as you come in, the hood that was over your head is ripped off, and you see before you one man standing behind a desk with basically like shelves upon shelves of scrolls and paper and books and just as much sort of paperwork as you possibly imagine. And it's stacked in corners, like where there's no room on bookshelves. It's just stacked up. There are parchment all over the desk. There's a huge map of the local area, and the man standing behind it looks to be getting on quite a bit. He's got a receding hairline. He's got a sort of quite a gaunt face. He has almost elven-like features, but he doesn't have the traditional pointed ears, and he doesn't peg you as sort of... He's just got that very slim, gaunt, almost malnourished sort of look to him. And he's wearing simple black clothing, nothing particularly fancy about it. It's elegant, but it's not sort of festooned with insignia or decoration. And he's reading something with spectacles on, which he takes off, folds, places to one side, and looks up at you and gives you a smile that just a flash of gold from his teeth, as he seems to have a few fake ones in there. And he says, "Right. And you are whom precisely?"
I'm Calvin.
Oh my god, he's doing the evil voice.
Are you Stavros?
He nods. That I am.
I want to do an insight check on whether or not he really is Stavros.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a 23.
On a 23, he certainly seems to, like, you glance to your side, you notice the two guys who are sort of standing there who've escorted you up this way certainly seem to take their cues from him as he dismisses them, and it becomes you guys alone in the room as they close the door, but you don't hear their footsteps leaving sort of down the staircase. You know they're just outside, and he seems to have sort of like that command, that confidence. Whether or not his name is actually Stavros, you don't know entirely, but it's safe to assume that this guy is probably the guy you're here to meet.
Yeah, no, that's where I was going for. That he's not pulling the thing that the gnome pulled at the Silver Serpent.
No.
This is just someone, posing, and the real guy's behind me or something. Well, you are not an easy man to get an appointment with. That is for sure. I do not wish to waste your time. I went and one of your messengers of the king was attacked on the road, asked for help.
Thanks,
we went out, tried to give them a hand. Turns out it wasn't just a messenger, it was a royal messenger with a satchel. I don't happen to have the satchel myself, but I do have the note that was in there, and there's something afoot, and Butler didn't do it. And he hands him the note.
He gestures for you to place it on the desk and unfolds his glasses, puts them on the end of his nose, sort of spends some time reading. Didn't care to let the man finish whatever it was he was writing, I assume.
Apparently not.
I see.
They were trained using some nasty poisons and other tricks. They were dressed up like they were regular bandits. Had a crazy tooth that he broke, so that when we tried to question who he was, he just gave a big old smile and then started foaming up like pasta in a boiling pot that's been on too long.
He gives you an equally toothy smile, sort of almost unconsciously running his tongue across his some of his fake teeth, and give me a persuasion check as you sort of spill all of this information out.
Yeah.
Is that a wild magic surge I see there?
It's only
for Sarah and for her torturer. We'll get to that in a minute.
Okay. So on a 12, he listens to everything you have to say, and is there anything else you needed to add?
Well, Clarence, the one who survived, is still alive. He was the one who sent us to you. Said you were the right man to know what was going on.
This man, Clarence, is where exactly?
Well, I don't rightly know, because I wasn't the person who talked with him.
I see. So you're just a messenger?
Well, I'm the messenger who helped to recover this satchel before it got into the hands of whoever it was that did the butchering, and just doing my best to make sure there's not any big surprises. We got a big day coming up.
Short life expectancy for the former owner of this letter. One might almost assume that it was cursed, given your life expectancy at the moment. You see, I see that you have brought me the message, but you also have impersonated one of the royal guard to infiltrate the castle. And moments after you were finished speaking with one of the clerics here, he proceeds to attack someone else in the infirmary. And when questioned, he assured us, with no shortage of lunacy, that we wouldn't be able to stop them. He's being very ambiguous about who it is he works for and what their plans are, and we are asking him very persuasively. But it does spring to mind that you were the last person to speak to him, and in all the years he's worked here, he's never once acted in any way suspiciously. Almost as if, were I a paranoid man, he has been waiting for someone to give him orders. Someone like a messenger, perhaps.
Well, you know, I figure if you're the spymaster of a place such as this, you've got to have a mind like a rabbit's warren, looking at every single possibility that's going on. But I also know that you're probably pretty smart. And I'm thinking you probably know that I had nothing to do with this. But you've got some reason to get some leverage on me. Now, I'm here to help the king. I'm here to try to keep peace in this world. You don't have to twist my arm if you need something.
Give me another persuasion check. As,
I'm going to use my 20.
Oh, okay. On that, he studies you for a long old while, and a smile breaks out. It's not a particularly warming smile, but it is well practiced. And he leans, looks at you, and says, "You have the mark of an honest man upon you. Perhaps not the safest choice, given the current climate. But nonetheless, I don't entirely disbelieve your story. I have quite a few questions about you, your associate that is currently also being questioned, and two others who it's just been brought to my attention have also entered the castle."
Yay.
Well, I'm betting they were probably pretty worried about us.
So you're what? Honest citizens simply trying to do what you can for the king and country, or are you looking for some kind of reward?
Well, I'm a musician, and you know, I do been known to play the fiddle every once in a while. I figured I could come up here and try my best, see if I can impress some folks without making too big of a deal with the devil along the way. But was hoping with as many these fancy people around here, heck, if I could just get a good paying gig, get out on the road, enough to put food on the table, make my way through the world, bring a little happiness. That's what I've been looking for here.
Right. Oh.
Now, you're a smart man. You know that the musician's world is shady sometimes. I'm not going to tell you that I try to be honest, but it's hard times. You know it's not nice out there. So, you go checking and sniffing. I'm sure you can dig a spymaster like you can dig up some dirt on me. I figure nobody doesn't get some dirt on their hands when the country's going to hell in a handbasket like it is.
Well, maybe we should wait for your friends before we discuss what it is I plan to do. Now you've brought me this information, and what it is you can do for me in exchange for keeping that head upon your shoulders. You are, of course, trespassing.
Much appreciated if my friends could keep their heads too.
Hmm.
And I figure, You ain't the easiest man to get to. Now, I've been honest with you. You'd be honest with me. If I just knocked on your front door and said, hey, there's a plot against the king, would I have even got past the guard? I'd probably gotten thrown in the moat, if not the shithouse.
That is a fair assumption. But it just so happens that your news is not entirely preposterous. And at that, the door swings open and a guard who is kind of panting, who doesn't look to be sort of like one of the heavily armed guards you've seen walking around inside the castle. This guy looks like he is sort of like belongs on sort of like the gate, checking in on ruffians and sort of on patrol and that sort of thing. And he comes in sort of begging your pardon, and he just waves his hand. Bring them up, I already know. And he says, no, sir, not. It's these two. And he says, yes, I know who they are. Bring them up now. Guard looks a bit flustered and, yes, sorry, my lord. And takes a deep breath and begins to jog down the steps again, sort of panting and wheezing. And sure enough, you see the two guards are still waiting outside on sentry duty. And moments later, Curtis and Lucy, the guard comes sort of back down, and he's using sort of his halberd to prop him up. Sort of, he said, "You can come up now. Have you got any weapons?"
No. No.
Roll me I guess a sleight of hand.
Thinks about ice pick. Thinks about low cards and voice. 6 on this.
Fantastic.
Wishes to be happy.
Well.
Yeah. As you ask, as he basically asks, have you got any weapons? Have you got any weapons upon you? You're leaning. You're leaning down to sort of like pick up one of the grain bags, and just maybe it got jostled around sort of as you're sort of moving around and sort of in a crowd, but your ice pick just slips from its sheath and just clangs onto the floor next to you, and he looks at you and right.
Get there?
Motherfucker!
That is unexpected.
I've never seen that before in my life. Honestly, officer.
No.
Did you leave that from when we were carving out the ice earlier? Honestly. You're supposed to put that back.
The two guards behind him, who seem a little quicker on the draw than he does, draw weapons, and both of you have swords sort of pointed maybe a foot or so from you. Weapons now, says one of them.
All right. And I like throw down the sack. Throw over my ice pick.
Throw down my sack. Throw down my ice pick.
I will put
Lucy
the
left all her
blow
stuff
dart.
at the yeah. Lucy left all of her stuff back at the end, so
yeah, Lucy is actually unarmed.
Yup.
You are roughly frisked, the pair of you, as even after sort of taking everything off, they
Excuse me.
There's no sort of they do their job brutally efficiently, sort of checking you over and finally sort of pushing you both together and up the steps, and the guard sort of goes to follow you, and a hand is placed on his shoulder, and he says, "Not you, just them." And he, "Oh right, yeah, well, I'll be seeing you." And he wanders off, and you guys are left to sort of alone traipse up a very tall spiral staircase that ends in a doorway guarded by two guards, one of whom reaches down and opens the door, swinging it open behind him, and leading you into a room that has no natural light coming into it. There are no windows, there are not even sort of arrow slits or anything like that. It is If you look up, you can see the ceiling is pointed, showing you that you are indeed at sort of the top of this tower in particular. The roof sort of visible vaguely from the inside, and you can see that again there is paperwork everywhere. And Calvin is standing there with an elderly-looking man who gestures you both to come in and smiles with a glint of gold. So, come in, make yourselves comfortable, I suppose. He gestures to a couple of chairs. Indeed.
I sit.
And you are...
I think you know who we are.
I know you're not who you say you are. And I know that you are proclaiming to have information. And as to your names, any names you could give me would probably be false.
It's true enough. My name is Iago, and this is my wife, Lucy.
Yes.
And Calvin, your friend here, was telling me all about your adventures rescuing a royal messenger who goes by the name of Clarence, who is still alive somewhere in your...
I get out the seal again and put it down on the table. That's right.
And he was ambushed by individuals who were disguising themselves as common cutthroats, but seemingly were more disciplined than your average sellsword. One of whom took their own life, and from what I understand, you took it upon yourself to save one of them, and then bring this message to the castle.
That is about the long and short of it. Although I'm not sure how much my friend here has told you, but it seems like you have a situation at Farmer's Rest, where possibly hundreds of these creatures have destroyed the NFFC.
He nods and ponders this. You had a fourth who came with you.
A girl.
That's right. So, explain to me the composition. How does this work? Who's in charge of this rabble you have?
I suppose me.
Yes, you're talking to him.
Yeah. I'll be straight. Stavros, I'm from a city in the Freelands. I work for a lord named Lord Ember, and I'm here to help as much as I can with relations between my city and your own.
So you're just here as a good citizen who's looking to do right by his neighbors, is that it?
I'm an ambassador of my people.
Okay. And how many ambassadors trespass into a castle heavily armed, whilst other members of their organization seem to trigger, shall we say, sleeper agents amongst their staff, causing disarray and damage to, well, the inner workings of the castle. Also...
only the good ones.
Okay, right. You've also disrupted local business, caused trouble with the local guards, and from what I understand, there was some incident with a growth. He looks to Calvin. Some kind of infection on this child.
What?
It was the nastiest thing you have ever seen. Don't tell her, though. She was pretty upset about it.
You could try having an open door policy, Stavros. Make it a lot easier for us.
Okay.
I have no idea what that came from, but there was definitely some strange things. Something weird going on that child's face. I mean, whew.
Yes, that seems problematic but unrelated. Ultimately. Hopefully.
They put it in a box. Somebody's got it. Stavros, if you want to take a look at it, I would love to know what you think of something like that, because that was just about as creepy as wings on a wombat, and I don't want to have any part of it.
Right.
Where is she?
Back to... Oh, she's being looked after and questioned privately.
Looked after and questioned. Those don't usually go together. In what way is this happening?
Is she hurt?
At the moment, no. Obviously,
She's a child.
And this is the castle of the king of the country. So, you understand that...
Not a king yet. It's got to make it that far.
Yes. Which is what we're trying to assist with. More or less.
You have all taken it upon yourself to try and help, which is something that is unusual, and I find myself in need of someone that is not currently associated with the prince, or myself, the local guard force. There are plenty of mercenaries. This incident at Farmer's Rest. The situation is somewhat more dire than you might expect. You see, we had an agreement with the new Freefields Coalition. The prince was worried that, given the coronation, and given what his advisors had told him, that the other kingdoms would look to pressure him on what was to be done immediately when he became king. That all niceties would fall by the wayside as people sought to exploit his relationship, or lack of relationship, with the new Freefields Coalition. So, ahead of time, and against my urgings, the prince went to meet with the new Freefields Coalition.
When was
they
this?
were supposed to establish... This was... several days ago.
Holy shit. Is the prince dead? Calvin blurts out.
Tell me he's alive.
He'd best be alive. Or we're in much deeper trouble indeed.
You are the first people who have returned with any kind of news of any thing that has happened.
Fucking shit.
Oh, God.
Oh, well.
This is not
good. How
good.
many you sent after him?
This is stickier than a tar baby in a jar of molasses.
I'm gonna say that again.
The prince was heavily guarded. They were prepared for almost any eventuality. And the details of the meeting were not circulated in any capacity. The fact that you have brought me word from Farmer's Rest is the only reason I believe you, because besides myself and the prince himself, nobody else knew where this meeting spot was. Not even the guards guarding him. New Freefields, they were supposed to send diplomats. Everything was supposed to be negotiated before the coronation, so when powers from other nations came forth, they would be caught off guard by an already negotiated understanding between, well, the north and south of Rivercroft. I don't know if they were followed or if someone on the other side is playing against the rules, but whatever this is, we have 2 days until the coronation, and I don't have a head to put the crown on at the moment.
Okay. How many troops do you have at your disposal to send out there and get him back?
He gives you a long and weary look, and he unravels the map. And he points to, on the map where, let me bring up the map. Ooh. As he shows you sort of a map of the kingdom, and the kingdom as it was and as it currently is. So you can see that over the top they have drawn in where sort of the New Freefields has claimed territory, and old settlements, anything that's been renamed, it's sort of been heavily doctored. And he points to Farmer's Rest, which is the northernmost village that still survives in New Freefields territory, that is sort of known about. There's probably others, but that's an old settlement that was there before the war. And he taps his finger and says, if I was to send troops in, we share a border with Breckendale, and we share another one with Ironheart. And there would be no way of hiding any large volume of troops moving through the area. There are diplomats coming from every different corner of the continent. There are soldiers everywhere, spies everywhere. If I am to march a significant body of troops, this shows that A, we are emptying the capital of what support it has from the military, and it is also a military mobilization into the NFFC's territory.
They're dead.
If I send troops, I look like I'm invading to reclaim territory.
Can I give him an inside check on this one?
Yes, absolutely.
It's a 13.
On a 13, I mean, everything he's saying kind of checks out, and you know what you know of sort of how fragile the thing. Yeah, he says if I move troops in the interest of rescuing the prince, and word gets out that the prince is missing, it causes panic and chaos. Diplomats may refuse to arrive. Soldiers may decide to run amok and abandon their posts. We could even have a foreign power looking to claim a throne which currently has no one to sit in it.
Tell me this. If Renford's dead, who sits on the throne?
We have a council who advise him, but of everyone there, the only ones aware that he is currently missing is myself and one other, who, for now, let's just say I have no reason to suspect that they are in any way responsible for what has happened.
So you're telling me you've lost your prince and you want us Go there and find him at Farmer's Rest if he's still alive. We'll find out what's happened to him.
I need someone who's quick and discreet and who actually values stability in this region. You've proven that you are willing to do the right thing, and what's more, well, you know everything that I am capable of doing in my position of power, and I have one of your own securely locked away at the moment. And you've been entirely honest with me.
I don't do this for the girl. Trust me, I'd sell her away in a heartbeat. But for the prince, and for stability, I would do this.
Yeah.
Who's bluffing?
Give me a deception check.
Sure.
Lucy believes him and is giving him a dirty look.
On a 24, yeah. His expression sours ever so slightly, but he nods and turns to Calvin. Yourself?
Last thing I need to see is another war. When you tear a countryside apart, nobody's getting anything done, and most musicians end up on the front lines, beating on drums as they get chopped to pieces by everything coming by them. Now, I will tell you, if you want this from us, you're going to need to give us that little girl. He might not give a damn for her. And I don't hardly know
It's
her.
optional.
But right is right, and we're taking care of her. I tell you, you're not going to find a scrappier little one who will surprise you every damn time when you need someone to come through for you.
He nods and gestures for you to... there it is. Found the map, sorry. I was looking for that. There you go. So yeah, he gestures for you to exit sort of without any embellishment on it. He simply gives you a map which has the location of Farmer's Rest on it, and before you are sort of shooed out of the room, he says, whatever force it is that overwhelmed our forces, the only thing I managed to convince the prince of was that he take soldiers that I hand-picked, soldiers that can keep a secret, that can be trusted, and that were better armed than any other man that we have. And there were 20 of them. Magic users and all. Whatever this force was, strength through blade and spell will not overcome them. So I wouldn't go advertising your position. Be discreet. And if you find naught but a body, you leave everything else behind. Bring me proof.
We will. Whatever happens from this, I will call in a favor for the freelance if we're successful.
If we're successful, freelance might actually get food supplies. If we're not, you might get a call to arms. We understand?
Understood. I guess you can give us a girl back now.
Yes, if you please.
I'll have her sent to you in the courtyard.
Wouldn't mind having our weapons back as well, there, friend.
They'll be sent to you as well. And I'll make sure that you have horses. This is a time-sensitive matter.
Of course.
So it would seem.
Well, I'll see you soon then. And
Thank you, Stavros. And
he gives you a
I'll
cold smile.
give him one right back. The fucking git.
Miserable
And,
bastard.
Fucking child torturer.
Yeah.
So, Josh,
Meeting all the best people.
just as a note, because I'm sure this lasted for more than a minute, I've been listening intently to Stavros's voice.
Yeah, I know. I know what you've done. Yes.
Yeah, I do the same.
part of the
I have
acting.
I have the same thingy. Yeah, we can
Yeah,
both
see?
be Stavros together.
You
Oh,
can
do the actor
impersonate
feed?
his
Did you do
voice.
the actor- Did you do the
No,
actor feed as well?
My Inquisitive rogue thingy gives me basically the same thing. That I can imitate a voice I've heard for 1 minute to a high degree of accuracy.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you are escorted outwards, and we're going to cut back to Sarah. Sarah, how do you take your first torture experience? How's it going as you are strung up?
Sarah's kind of recessing into herself as the continued horror of this goes on. And she tries very stoically not to show any pain. She imagines that's what her father would have done if he was being tortured. And she being taken into her first mercenary group feels like she really needs to be true to her companions, which will always be there for her and never abandon her for any other cause. So...
Hey, also you got there's a wild magic surge for Sarah and one for her torturer, and we have a viewer decision on the retweets.
Okay, right.
So
Let's
wild magic surge for Sarah is caster thinks that she'll combust if she tells a lie.
So I'll tell you right now that this guy basically, you can see that in the corner of the room there is a charred skeleton that is still hanging roughly from the manacles, and you can see that there are sort of scorch marks on the wall. It appears that people are fucking incinerated during questioning if they are, well, uncooperative.
The torturer gets target's blood holds the secret to eternal life.
It's amazing.
Of course it does. Of course it does.
Of course
This guy
it does.
is old and haggard as fuck.
Like a vampire.
Yeah, he is particularly sort of brutish looking, and he looks like he suffered through quite a lot of hard fighting. You notice, like, now you're really studying him, like trying to commit his face to memory. You see that his right eye is slightly cloudy. It's on the same side that the burns are. He's taken his gloves off to sort of pick at his nails with his knife, and you can see his hands are quite taut to the bone. Sort of the skin seems to almost be translucent, almost as if it's well, it doesn't fit with the rest of his body. Like, his face leathered, weathered, mauled, horrible. Is
he human? Is he even like...
Give me an investigation as your...
Do you want to do this viewer decision at this point as well, Josh?
Yeah. Well, so guys, Stavros is going to see to that they get some horses. They're going to be given 3 horses. They're going to be given some basic supplies for the trip, sort of, some rations and heavy traveling cloaks to cover up who they are. But Stavros is also going to give them something else to help them on their secret covert mission. What is it? What does Stavros deem they need for this covert mission? Oh dear God. Oh,
I had a good cry about Morty before stream today, actually.
good. I'm glad to hear. So,
Of course.
Wow.
Morty.
give me an investigation as you're studying this guy.
I will. I will indeed.
On a 22? No, he's not human. You get the feeling he's at least a half-elf, you would imagine. He's basically got scarring around the tips of his ears as if he's had them rounded off. He looks like he's probably... You get the feeling he's probably quite a bit older than you initially pegged him at, of sort of like, considering he's starting to look old, and sort of haggard and world-weary. If he's a half-elf, probably well over 100. Other than that, he is quiet. He sort of triggers something. He unsettles you to be around. He's got that kind of quiet menace to him. He doesn't threaten you. He doesn't spend lots of time sort of like laughing maniacally. He doesn't sort of like sharpen his blade intimidatingly in front of you. He doesn't do any of that. He just sits on this stool and picks at his nails. He looks bored. Is Sarah just sort of regressing?
So she kind of still not wanting to realize what's going on and being stretched and like breaking out into a sweat, tries to find something in reality to focus on again. So what? You're just a product of the war yourself?
He looks
Maybe
up.
your mom wasn't too willing, and that's how you found yourself here? Doing terrible little things to terrible little girls? Or at least that's what you tell yourself, right? That's how you sleep at night. Got that half-blood in you. You're not good enough to be an elf, and not good enough to be a human, so here you are, in the only place that'll have you. Is any of this ringing true to him at all?
He sort of doesn't seem phased. He looks up eventually after sort of like says, you realize I could walk over there and run this knife across your throat?
I realize that if you wanted to, you would have done it already. But the thing is, you're just a pet, you see. You're being brought down here with me to torture me or keep me under some kind of duress. But you can't really kill me now, can you? That'll get you in a mite in trouble. And that's all you've done, right? Just walk the line, do what you're told. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, mum. So you're going to sit there. I'm going to be released someday. Maybe not someday soon. Maybe I'll be in this dungeon for longer than I'd like. But it won't matter now, will it? Someday I'm going to get out. And you're just going to be here. With the same twisted fantasy over and over again. And I swear, my face will be the last that you see.
He waits for you to finish again, just right across the throat. One swish. So what about you? Why are you... Well, what the fuck are you doing here?
I'm here to save the king.
We don't have a king.
You will have a king. As soon as there's a crown on his head.
Don't fancy yourself a princess?
Do I look like a fucking princess to you, eh?
You certainly don't talk like one.
I'm sorry that I don't speak properly.
Yeah, you speak better than most. Where was your father from? Touchy
She
subject.
narrows her eyes.
All right. So,
Tell you what, why don't we play a game of chance? I win, you let me out. I could have gotten away.
right. Of course. You just slipped out of 4 restraints through a heavily bolted door and past several armed guards.
I could have done it. I just didn't want to give you the hassle. Because when they come back, and they will come for me, you're going to be in a mite of trouble, and I want to be right here watching it when it happens, because I'm going to laugh. You might loosen this up a bit. Maybe I'll laugh a little less hard when you're the one that's trapped here. Maybe I don't ask them to let me be the one that turns the wheel, you see?
Do you ever shut up?
No.
He smiles. So, what's this game you want to play, as we've got time to kill?
Well, you got to let me out. How am I supposed to play a game like this?
Use your imagination. You're a kid.
All right, then. Reach into me bag. Find some dice. We'll keep it nice and simple. I learned some maths.
Walks over. Checks your bag through. Pulls out a small set of dice.
It's actually quite better this way. You can't accuse me of cheating and all. Take the dice, roll them. Whoever gets the highest, you can choose to roll for me. Roll for yourself first. Whatever. If I beat you just in numbers, then let me go. I take a walk.
One roll.
One roll. We never see each other again.
He looks at the dice. What kind of people do you think end up in this room here?
I'd like to think it's a bad kind of people. People that actually deserve to be here. And then I also think that the people that end up here are the people that don't deserve to be here. The ones that are like me, Ma and Pa, shafted out of the system. And this is where all the problems go to get solved. And I'm just a problem.
You're just a problem, eh?
That's the way it seems to be at the moment.
Whose problem are you?
Howard's. You ever heard of Howard? Goddard?
Should I have?
Smiles a wicked grin. You never heard of Howard? The cleric, the dwarf, wears a suit. Quite fancy when he wants to be.
Okay.
Oh, he's mean. Oh, is he ever mean when he get him mad? See, he's my adoptive da. He's not going to be very happy when he hears about this. Now go on, roll the dice.
So, I roll high. You stay.
Then you win. I stay. I keep my mouth shut. You can go back, clean your fingernails, or whatever it was you're doing. I win. You untie me. And I get out of the castle. Get out of your hair. You get to hear me talk less. I think that's a win for the both of us.
Picks up the die. Rolls a 1.
He would have rolled a 1 anyways. I get... Oh, wait.
What?
I nod my head at him like, not gonna let me roll the die, so...
And he rolls again.
And it's a 6. I win.
And he smiles. That's a neat trick.
What's a neat trick?
But you're tied up, so that wasn't you, that was the dice.
What you getting on about?
I think I found my new favorite dice.
I think that if you try to take that
Picks
from
it
me,
up,
I'm gonna
puts it in his
come and
pocket.
stab you in your motherfucking eyeballs while you're sleeping.
Puts it in his pocket. Thanks for that, kid. Goes back to cleaning his nails with the tip of his dagger. You got a lot to learn. You've got a lot to learn, kid. And he goes back to ignoring you, picking at his nails. And a few more minutes pass. Feels like hours. Like Sarah's probably very bored. There's nothing
I'm so
going on.
bored already. Let me out of this. The real torture is the boredom.
And finally, there's a knock on the door, and he looks at you, stands up, puts the knife away on his back, and right, well, I guess this is goodbye, one way or another. Anything you want to say before?
Be seeing you.
Right you are. Turns around, opens the door. There's a guard outside. They have some very hushed words just outside the door. You can't read their lips, sort of like they don't show their faces. You can't overhear them. They talk discreetly, and he comes back in. Any last words, kid?
Tell Howard I said thank you.
Right you are. And he draws his knife, walks over to you. Does she stare death in the face?
Oh, fuck yeah. She is pissed about dying. She is sad for a moment, more for Howard and Goddard than her new companion. She hasn't gotten to know them very long. But there's that kind of twinge, and then she goes back to just, fuck this guy. Fuck you. Do it. Do it, you sissy.
He looks at you and with a vicious swipe cuts through your right wrist's restraint, letting your hand free, and begins to cut the restraints one after the other, leaving them still sort of clamped around your wrists and ankles, but no longer attached to anything.
I collapse onto him, using my sleight of hand to get my dice back.
Give me that sleight of hand roll.
Take my nat 20. You got to learn, kid.
You get it, but you manage to sort of, you slip it out of his pocket and away, and he smiles at you and sort of like pushes you sort of off of him, knife still in hand, sort of like putting a little bit of distance between you, and he sort of gives you a smile, reaches into his pocket to grab the dice, looks at you. Not as wet behind the ears as I thought. Do yourself a favour, stay out of trouble.
She over-dramatically bows, her arms wincing, like the pain in the process, snaps herself up, and does her best to carry herself with dignity out of there, obviously not doing so well given the state of soreness in her injuries.
He points you to the door, and there are two guards waiting who forcibly carry you essentially out, sort of literally one under each arm, just dragging you out, and you are sort of marched into the courtyard. It's not that they're like sort of dragging you against you, it's more they don't seem to, they forget you're shorter, you're a kid and everything like that. They're used to wrestling with quite burly men and sort of like fighters and stuff.
For Sarah, it would be an awfully long march.
I hate you. I hate your life.
Did you just do that?
You're marched back to the same room. It's just like,
Oh no.
I told you to stay out of trouble. I told you to stay out of trouble. He puts you back, puts you in the Iron Maiden.
The end.
He, and you are escorted out, and you meet with. You guys are sort of rejoined as a party in the courtyard, where there are 3 horses that are waiting for you that have some supplies on. What is? I haven't got the viewer decision up in front of me. Oh wait, there we go.
It's a good one.
Oh dear God.
Oh
no.
Really? I hate all of you. You're all the worst.
Yeah. It was great watching him, seeing it brew in the background. It's like, and you just kept poking him, and I'm just like, this is going to be so good when she sees.
No.
Oh, shit.
So,
Wow.
you guys, there are 2 horses waiting for you guys in the courtyard, which have supplies and stuff on them. And you are told by one of the local guards, sort of, comes over and he says, "You have been given horses. Bring them back." Doesn't really seem to know what's going on. Sort of gives you a sort of a "we're watching you" kind of look, but then seems very distracted, and without any kind of instructions or any clue as to what your purpose is, why you've been given this equipment, he just sort of, and then just wanders off to find something else to do, and without any sort of guidance, you were just left standing in the courtyard as a small child is brought out with an armed guard on either side and almost thrust into your midst. And they don't stand, they literally just turn and march back inside. And you guys are now out. There are some commoners walking around, some of the rabble, but you are reunited once again.
Sarah! Are you
Sarah, it's good to
alright?
see you.
Gonna run up and just muss her hair and check her over and that sort of thing.
What happened? Are you alright, dear? Oh, what is this little scar on your chin? Is that from... Never mind, we can talk about it later.
And Lucy's gonna just dismiss Rick for now, rather than try to have him come out of the castle somehow.
Curtis will bring the horses round and say, "Let's get the hell out of here."
Yes.
Somewhere there is a guard who is in the process of, he's put the halberd to one side and is now using a broom, and he's staring down Sir Richard. Sir Richard is giving him the dead eye, has made a sort of like another bed for himself, and is guarding like some scraps of food, and just hackles raised, and he's just like, "All right, let's do this." And then Sir Richard just, and he just, and one of the other guards comes around the corner and just sees him sort of wielding out a broom like a halberd. Just, I can explain. There was a cat, and he's shooed away. But Sir Richard is returned to his little pocket dimension.
Yes. This good.
Sarah will explain everything. Let's get out of this castle. And I can like throw a cloak over her shoulders, sort of like a blanket type thing. And,
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
Get
but
her on a horse out of here.
I've got to go back to the inn and gather my things.
Yeah, I
Before
think
we
it's best if we
proper head
return
out.
there.
Yeah, is this basically taking all day, or what time of day is it right now?
Yeah.
It's actually getting quite late. It's sort of getting on in the evening. You would know it's now a respectable time to visit the brothel if anyone's interested. It's probably 8-9 o'clock in the evening.
So, how did you all survive your torture? Was it bad for you? Did you
Torture?
cry?
They didn't torture us, Sarah. They were just using you as leverage.
Half a mind to go back to that castle and let's get you
Stavros.
patched up, dear.
What
Yeah,
do you
everyone
mean he
kind of-
didn't get tortured? That's bloody unfair. How come I got tortured? I'm tougher than the lot of you.
Listen,
Well, that's-
Sarah, it's because you're young and we care about you. So they could
Yes.
use you to get to
And-
us.
Why anime eyes at the second that you say that you care about her?
And we're dealing with some truly filthy people, it seems.
I told you, Remo's a nice guy compared to these lot. The ones in charge are the
least-
ones that are truly shady.
At least his kind of slime is predictable.
Predictable slime is some of my favorite kinds.
You have a favorite kind.
What about the king? Is he going to be okay?
We are in the process of sorting that out.
Yeah, we get back to the tavern and into our room, and I'll give the brief. Basically, the prince has been missing. We have to go to Farmer's Rest, and Stavros. He is 10 times as worse than Remo. I mean, that guy, he held that girl in a torture chamber and tried to use you as leverage.
I don't trust him. Not as far as I could throw him.
Yeah, he's just about as bad. Just about as bad as you can imagine, that's for darn sure. So bad I can't even think of something to compare him to.
I was waiting, and then it didn't come, and I was like, oh my... Calvin is pissed.
Bad the words have escaped.
I'd like to talk to Remo and see what we have on Stavros, if anything, because I don't trust him at all. But if the prince is missing, we do have to go.
Yes.
I mean, you guys have been up all day at this point, so you can power on through the night if you want, sort of get some ground, or you could, if you've got anything you wanted to do in town first, you guys obviously have rooms to rest in if you want to get up at the crack of dawn and make ways. It's up to you.
I do want to spend the night creating a costume in whatever room if we decide to sleep with my disguise kit.
Okay. What's
Good.
Going to try and look like a little boy.
Okay.
Other times it takes 10 minutes to craft a disguise. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm gonna go visit Remo.
Okay. So, are you heading off alone, Curtis, or are you taking anyone with you?
Calvin will go along. Yeah, because I would. Yeah, I'd like to see again if I can hear some other stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Lucy will stay and look after Sarah.
Calvin.
Yeah. So Calvin and Curtis are going together, and Lucy's staying back with Sarah to keep an eye on her.
Yep.
Okay. Well, the lads head off, and you make your way through. The nightlife is a little bit more active. There are already people who are in the process of, like, they're pre-drinking, essentially, except they're pre-drinking 2 days in advance. These guys know how to pre-drink. And, taverns are sort of packed. Shops are sort of look like they've stayed open quite late to do what trade there is available, because really, people are just happy to trade whatever time there are people who have coin to actually spend, and mostly are sort of like sleeping nearby. And you sort of worm your way through crowds of drunkards and people singing songs. Calvin, you pick up, there's actually quite a joyous sort of atmosphere everywhere you walk. People seem happy to be here, and even though it's just pissing it down with rain, there are people sort of like mud wrestling, like mucking around, getting drunk. People are giving up on trying to avoid the weather and are just making the most of it. Think festival goers, like in sort of you know how it gets sort of.
You don't care about the mud once you get drunk enough.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, as you make your way through town, the mood is.
So you're telling me that they're like drunker than Will in a field in Sussex?
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. And you you make your way through on a Sunday night.
On a Sunday night in a field in Sussex. Yeah, okay. I've got that visual now.
Yeah.
You make your way through. Yeah, it's almost like Will. It's immersive, right? It's almost like you can picture yourself there. You make your way through, and finally come up to the Silver Serpent, where there are people standing around outside having drinks. You notice sort of as you approach, they've actually got what seems to be what before just looked sort of like a rear entrance, but it's sort of a balcony area that's just raised above the mud, where people are standing outside drinking, getting some fresh air, as the air inside is well, not the freshest, as Curtis has discovered, but the door is open and shut pretty often as people are welcomed in, sort of patted down or pay their toll and welcomed into the establishment. Sorry, Calvin, you were saying?
As we sort of step into up the stairs or in through the door, however, wherever our positioning is, Calvin just sort of puts his hand on Curtis's shoulder and goes, "Nasty. Nastier than chitlins and haggis served up in a dirty ashtray. Stavros. I knew I had
it. There it is. There it is.
Got him.
I was a little upset back there.
Right. Didn't want you to think I was losing my cool.
I point to the woman who said that Remo that Calvin should speak with. I've forgotten her name.
Yeah, Elizabeth. Yeah, she's sort of too deep at the bar in every direction, taking orders. The slick gentleman who was with her, sort of looking very fancy and quite had that kind of smarmy customer service sort of vibe to him. They're both doing a lot of business, but she sees you walk in, Calvin, and she just gives you a polite nod in your direction and eyes sort of one end of the bar, which is slightly well, to the point where you could actually sort of worm your way so you were at the bar as opposed to sort of standing and waiting.
Yeah, swing around and worm my way in. He's a slim guy, so he can sort of does the barman squeeze. Yeah,
the barman squeeze. Just breathe.
Yeah.
Think skinny thoughts, and you make your way. And she motions that she'll be with you in just a moment. And as that's happening, Curtis, you note that the booth actually has two very unfriendly-looking fellows standing either side of it, arms folded across massive chests, sort of big, sort of like heavily scarred, tattooed. They just look very thuggish. Not like, I mean, you can see that they don't appear to be armed, but they look like they can handle themselves.
Yeah, I'll sidle up to them and look at the two of them. I'm imagining the scene from Ocean's 11 where those two like really big, bold folks go up to him, and he looks at them and says, "Is your boss available? Here to speak with Remo. You know who I am?"
One of them reaches out at this huge sausage-fingered hand, clamps it on your shoulder, and sort of like grips you in that way of a man who is making the point of, this is how strong my grip is, look how tough I am. That kind of just thuggish intimidation. And he goes to say something which was probably going to be incredibly enlightened and insightful, well worth listening to, but he's cut off before he can say anything by a voice that just says, "Fucking hell. All right, lads, he's all right. Let him sit down. Get us a drink, will you?" And they nod and sort of sidle their way over to the bar, leaving you two to talk.
Thank you, Mr. Remo. I appreciate you. I appreciate the help, even though we ended up not needing it in the end. Events transpired.
He looks you up and... You mean you got no fucking need for this? And he puts down a sealed envelope that you notice has got a royal seal, wax seal on it. And he says, "You don't fucking need this now. You taking the piss?"
On the contrary, I'll still be needing it. But I need something else as well. And I'm willing to make a deal. Do whatever it is required for you in exchange for this. Seeing as we've done one business transaction successfully, and I kind of pull the seal over and pocket it.
Yeah, he holds his hands up. He's like, "No fucking refunds, believe me. But all right, what do you want?"
I want to know everything about Stavros.
Oh.
And I've got some incredibly important information for you that I'll be willing to trade for it.
All right. What are you bargaining with?
Information on Prince Henry Renford. That is utmost secrets.
Very nice. Roll me a persuasion check, as he sort of seems to be weighing up the value versus what you're asking from him.
I'm a bad person.
You are a terrible person. You are the fucking worst.
That's a 15.
He stands there, sort of rings his fingers several times, and drinks come over, and there's a bottle of wine placed between you, and surprisingly, two cups are placed down, and he waves them away. And he makes the point of pouring your glass first, and then pouring something for himself. Right. So, when you say you want to know everything about him, what are we talking here? Like, you want to know what he eats, where he sleeps? You want to know his...
I want to know his loyalty. I want to know his power.
His power?
For instance, if something were to happen to the prince, what happens to Stavros? What does Stavros move? Who's he friends with? That kind of thing.
Something happens to the prince, eh? Alright, you piqued my interest. So,
you can guarantee the information?
I tell you what I heard. Nothing written down. Nothing concrete, as it were, but...
You have a name?
Stavros is... Well, he was loyal to the king before he kicked the bucket, fleeing the kingdom during the war. And when the prince returned, the Rivercroft's a small fucking place. We've never had much in the way of governments. We're not a huge empire like Elysium. We're not as chaotic as Ironheart. We're not as organised as Breckendale. We had the king. The king had his advisors, his council of advisors, and then there were generals. And other than that, a few lords who ruled over different areas, but we're not talking complex city-states and all that shit that you get in other kingdoms.
Mm-hmm.
Which meant that we don't have so many people to lose, and we fucking lost them. A lot of them. So many so that Stavros, well, he's one of the only advisors the prince has who actually knew his father. So the prince trusts him because everyone else is new and eager and looking to carve out their own piece of the kingdom.
He's an old hand.
Yeah. And he's
but
been
does
around
that loyalty extend to the king's son?
Fucked if I know. I know that he's ruthless, does what needs to be done, but I've only had a few run-ins with him, not personally. Had a couple of people that have been snatched up by his cronies, and some came back and some didn't. Ones that came back, he's got a couple of pretty cold people under his employ. Worked my boys over pretty hard, but second they had what they wanted, cut them loose. If you're not a threat to him...
Well, you're a powerful man, Mr. Remo. He wouldn't like to start any fights with you, I'm sure. At least, none that he didn't have to.
But if I was in Stavros' bad books, we wouldn't be having this conversation, because I'd be very, very dead. Or I'd be very, very far away. But so far as it goes, I don't cause enough trouble to get in his bad books, and he lets me continue, well, my business.
Is he buyable?
Buyable? Fucking... I mean... If you're looking to bribe him, you're barking up the wrong tree.
But if I had the wealth of a kingdom behind me, and promises of power,
before I answer that, I've shared. Now you're up.
fair enough.
What's this by?
I'm not a stealer. I've been told by Stavros himself that the prince is missing.
You fucking what? He looks around, climbs up onto the booth and sort of looks into the booth next door, and you just hear him go, "Oi, fuck off, the lot of you." You hear some very disgruntled patrons get booted out of their booth and shooed away by some burly men, and he sits down again, leans over, pours you another drink, pours himself one, seems to think better of it, and just swigs from the bottle. What the fuck?
It's my reaction
Since
too.
when? Hold on,
2
hold
days
on,
ago.
hold on. 2 fucking Christ. He's been coronated in 2 fucking days. What the fuck are you doing here?
Exactly. This has been told to me by Stavros. Now, keep in mind, I don't trust that slimy bastard as... Well, Calvin would have something that he could liken this to, but I can't. I just don't trust him at all. Is he telling me the truth?
Well, he let you walk out with that knowledge, so either he wants you to go blabbing it, or he's got other plans for you.
Yeah. Okay, well... Now we're square. I should also let you know that I'm going to go find the prince. See if he's alive.
Oh, whoa, whoa. Look. I don't know what kind of deals you cut with him, and I don't particularly want to know. This is above me, alright? I'm small time, and I like it that way.
Well, you know the big timers then, Mr. Remo. If I'm talking to the wrong person here, then please direct me to whoever I should be speaking with. I had the understanding that you were a man with influence and power.
You're talking to Stavros. You understand that he's now essentially, if he's to believe, running Rivercroft, which means there are a lot of people, a lot of armies out there who would back Rivercroft if they forcibly wanted to retake their lands from the NFFC. Like Breckendale, just next door, we used to be pally with. If he was brokering a deal here, wanted to make a big move, well, he's now in charge of... Well, he speaks for Rivercroft. He speaks for the crown.
I think we have a lot to be worried about, Mr. Remo. And I'm being honest when I say that if you do know people who are more powerful that we could speak to, I think it would be advisable. I know that you're not exactly on the right side of the law the whole time, but both of us work best when there is some amount of peace. And neither of us want Rivercroft to burn. Or, hell, go to war with whoever the fuck out there is that's trying to kill everyone. Or murder the prince.
Look, there's one person that they're close to Stavros, and they were close to the prince. Fuck, I shouldn't be telling you this shit, alright? Look. The prince, well, he's been advised to make allegiances. Pal up with one of the other kingdoms. About a week ago, one of the guys who does deliveries up to the castle said he saw a nice piece of skirt arriving. We're talking prima donna, fucking beautiful, and heavily guarded, all mercenaries, all kitted out, all fancy armor. She comes in, all hush hush, not through the front, comes in through the servants' entrance. They tell me she's pretty, real fucking pretty. And, well, she's in the castle for a little while. When she comes out, well, let's just say I had a friend who ain't with us anymore who decided it'd be a real smart idea to proposition her rather flamboyantly on the way back to wherever it was she was going. And the way I heard it, they cut him down in the street. And the way I heard it, when the guards arrived, they were told to piss off by whoever her protectors were. And they pissed right off. Nothing was done about it, so I goes to asking the guards who the fuck she was and why the fuck her personal muscle get to cut down my friend in the street. All I was told was they have the blessing of the king, soon to be king. Or maybe not in this fucking case.
Yeah.
Always I'm thinking that she was pretty and she was human and she was fair and her fucking guards were well armed.
She's from somewhere else.
Princess. Well, sure as shit ain't from round here, and I'm thinking someone else has sent him a gift. Potentially a wife.
Or alliances. Okay. Alright. So, we've got Stavros telling me that there's someone else that the prince trusts. Someone that he's certain. Oh, so if the prince is gone, maybe there's someone else making a move here. We'll have a kingdom.
I mean, how long does it take to get married? Fucking prince could have a wife already. There could be a princess roaming around in the castle.
If she went in there and got married to him, which is, I suppose, possible. If he was convinced somehow, maybe, as you said, pressure was upon him to forge alliances.
Curtis, if you'd seen her, you wouldn't need much convincing, mate. Look, I'm thinking he's young, he's impressionable. He's about to have a kingdom. He needs something to soothe his temper.
Someone that he trusts tells him. Someone like Stavros. Okay. We gotta figure out who on earth is this woman is. But at the same time, I need to find out where the prince is and if he's still alive. My suspicions are he's dead, and that Stavros and this woman are working together to take over Rivercroft for a foreign nation.
Well, one way or another, that's your fucking business. I've already talked to you for too long. Have the bottle. And he pushes the bottle to you and finishes his glass. I don't really feel much like drinking tonight. In fact, I might just go and bury myself until all of this shit is done.
Lay low would be my advice, Mr. Remo. I'm sure you've done it before.
Yeah.
If I call upon you, will you answer for help?
Fuck's sake, Curtis. Look, I like you. Don't get me wrong. I do. You're an alright lad. You understand how things work, but depends what you're fucking asking, to be completely honest. I'll leave word. I'll leave a note behind the bar if I need to be reached, and it's by you. I'll point you in my direction. If you can sniff me out, well, I suppose we can talk.
Here's to hoping that we see each other again one day then, Mr. Remo.
Yeah, you keep saying that, but every fibre of my being says I really don't want to see you again. No offence.
Well, just remember that it was me that gave you the heads up. And I grab the bottle and head over to where Calvin is having a conversation.
Yeah, we'll cut back to Calvin, going back a few moments in time to Elizabeth, who makes her way down the bar and says, "What can I get you?" A voice, perhaps, as you're muted.
Hey, how you doing? Good to see you.
Thank you, Brexit. Appreciate it.
It's okay, darling. I often find men have trouble talking to me.
Well, can't imagine that, but just give me if you got a nice shot of whiskey back there, that would be fine.
She turns around and grabs a bottle from the shelf. It's from one of the higher shelves. Pours you a glass, places it on the counter. That'll be a gold piece.
He hands her over the gold piece without any question and goes, so who else is ordering from the top shelf this evening?
She looks around. Sorry, I'm being distracted by chat. She looks around and says it depends entirely on what sort of trouble you're looking to get yourself into. We have diplomats and we have soldiers and we have mercenaries. Anyone with the coin and the reputation.
Well, I figure we've got quite an interesting road ahead of us. And I don't know. Let's start at the top of the list there, you know. Who you got diplomatic like here in the house that I might be able to go sing a song for and listen in, maybe get brushed off by them for a little bit of time.
Well, I'd stay away from the booth. And she points not to where Remo is sitting, but basically the other end, closest to the stage.
Mm-hmm.
There's two from Ironheart there, and one of them, well, let's just say they picked the darkest corner for a reason. They don't like bright lights.
Ah, now ain't that interesting? Only come in here at night, huh?
I wouldn't go poking around too much. And I wouldn't go drinking anything they hand you.
Good advice right there. Now, I'm assuming that they probably have something a little stronger than alcohol that they've got pouring out of their glass to keep their conversation private.
You could say that.
Interesting.
Then we have the very inebriated major over there, and he points over. She points over. She points over to a woman who is essentially sort of leaning back on a chair. She's got one of the central tables, big round table, and there are pretty much entirely soldiers sat round. Some of them who look to be local guard and others who seem to be mercenaries, and they are all gambling. Everyone at the table is gambling. Have cards all over the place, coin, empty drink flagons. It looks like it's a bit of a riotous sort of night. It's a big table. It accommodates a lady who is dancing in very little clothing on top, and they're all in the process of exchanging stories, ogling this beautiful woman, and gambling and swearing, and occasionally there's sort of punches are thrown and then they settle down. It's drawing a lot of attention. And finally she points to the end of the bar and she says, the gentleman on the end works in the castle and is, well, he's not particularly well liked. And there is a guy sat at the end of the bar who is not, like, there aren't people sat either side of him or anything. He is alone. And people are avoiding sort of taking the stools either side as he is just having a quiet drink.
What's his story over there?
Him? Well, he always pays. And I understand that he's works in the castle and not in the kitchens. Whatever it is he does, people steer clear of him.
Huh. Well, ain't that interesting? God, other than our party crowd here in the middle, looks like I got a couple people who thinking they don't want to be bothered this evening. That's my favorite type. And so I think first he's going to head up to the stage. Because you were saying the folks from iHeart were at a booth near the stage, correct? Or
like right next to the stage. Like literally, like if this was a modern day establishment, they'd like have their backs to the speakers, like that close. Curtis, you see Calvin makes his way up towards the stage just as two ladies who were dancing in tandem finish their set, fold their fans away, and sort of exit very gracefully off through a side door. And the stage is left empty for a moment, and you see the guy who appears to be sort of doing the announcements goes to step up onto the stage and then diverts slightly to Calvin. Here to try. You playing this little song?
I just come right on up there and pull out my my bandolier and start up a song, and just start pull it across there and go, well, Jill at the bar is a friend of mine. She don't give me no drinks for free, but she's quick with a joke and I'll light up your smoke, 'cause there's some place that she'd rather be. She says, Calvin, I think this place is killing me, as a smile runs away from her face. She goes, I think I could be up where the nobles are if I could get out of this place. La-di-da-di-di-da. And he goes on.
You get the dirtiest look from behind the bar.
Amazing.
The dirtiest look from behind the bar. But as you begin to sing, are you paying attention? Where's your focus at this point?
I have like, you know, as I start to do this ballad, I kind of like grab a stool and I put it on the corner right next to where the drow are. And with my training, basically in actor, I'm listening to anything that I can overhear, and specifically their voices, as I am a prodigy as well.
Give me a perception check as you are playing, and I'll need a performance for the song. I'll give you advantage because I'm impressed.
Let's do
Prodigy
the performance
effects.
first with advantage.
Wait,
That's
That's a 27. Hot damn. You play a pretty tune, and pretty soon, sort of, you notice that the girl who's dancing for all the soldiers takes this moment, sort of, where they've stopped paying attention, to step past two of them and step off the stage and make her way sort of to someone else. And yeah, you get a lot of attention in your direction. Give me that perception check.
Come on, perception.
And that's a wild magic surge for Calvin from Ronan Z. Thank you, my friend.
That's a 15 on perception.
On a 15, it's hard to see, but you make out the unmistakable dark skin of a drow. You only see one. It is a female. She is wearing robes. You can only see sort of her face, and her hands are sort of the only exposed skin, but you can make out her features. She looks back at you, and you make eye contact with her, and she doesn't seem to be inebriated or enjoying herself. She's just studying you. The individual sat opposite her is male and is not a drow, is a moon elf. So bluer skin, but much lighter.
Yep.
Ironheart being mostly a moon elf kingdom with drow running rampant underneath it, they appear to be representatives from both races.
Okay. So
And,
do I hear any of their conversation, or on 15 I'm not able to?
On a 15, you pretty much hear the conversation die out as soon as you get close. And you hear the moon elf mentioning, sort of complimenting the music. Just, you have to say, he has quite good taste. I mean, well, Liz doesn't seem to be enjoying things pointed in her direction. And he smiles, sort of pointing, drawing attention to the daggers you're getting from behind the bar. But other than that, you catch that they're pretty private. They don't just openly voice. The second you draw close, you do, however, hear that both of them speak incredibly well. They're not common ruffians, you know. They are well spoken.
Okay. And you said that she's looking at me. This female drow is looking at me, kind of with not the friendliest scrutinizing.
Yeah.
So as I finished my first song, I looked down at her, and his voice changes entirely from his normal sort of southern type thing, and he gets sort of into a real sort of slow, smooth voice. He's like, I see you in your tree, wild eyes watching me. You aren't all you seem. I've seen you in your dreams. Ooh, who are you? Flying by the light of the moon. I see you watching me. And he just sort of goes on sort of lyrically singing to her in this sort of low, smooth voice, and sort of trying to tie into the fact that it's a moon elf and a drow, sort of out of place in this place.
Give me another performance.
Get an invite to their table.
Give me another performance roll at advantage.
Okay. The 19.
A 19. On a 19, just... Oh, on that, on a, yeah. Okay, on your 19, you are pulled off the stage, essentially, as she leans forward, seemingly to speak to you, and as you lean in, she just grabs you by the collar and pulls you with surprising strength down off of the stage and into their booth. Curtis, you see all of this unfold. You see Calvin sort of go up on stage. You're about to sort of speak to him where suddenly he's there. And now you see that Calvin is making nice with the locals.
I raise an eyebrow. All right. And I walk out.
Like that?
I was going to say, that just means it's Tuesday, right? Calvin,
yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Is Curtis heading back to the rooms?
Yep, I will head back to the tavern.
Okay, we'll cut back there in just a moment. But Calvin, you are now sat next to a moon elf and opposite a drow who has literally pulled you in to sit opposite her. And oh, where's that?
I'm just conscious of the time.
Oh yeah. So looks you up and down and says, "So, what brings you?"
Always, and yeah, he's going to stay kind of smooth. Always interested in interesting people. You are certainly an interesting pair here. Both of you. And he sort of gives a big smile to the moon elf as well.
nods, sort of seems a lot more in sort of a lot lighter spirits than his female companion. Well,
I don't have it up. Can someone look that up for me? 11:38.
Yeah, what was your roll?
11:38.
Nice. Shall see here. 11:38 for Calvin on his wild magic surge. You are forcibly barred from the next town you attempt to enter.
Oh no.
Yeah, this is just
That's
getting
probably
easier
Farmer's Rest,
and
ain't it?
easier.
Okay, I tell you what, I'm gonna leave this down to chat. We're wrapping up here now, guys. All right. So, chat. What faux pas has Calvin supposedly caused that is about to get him forcibly removed from the establishment?
Oh boy.
We're going to leave that cooking for just a moment as Calvin makes niceties. But Curtis, you're making your way back towards the tavern to meet up with Lucy and Sarah, yeah?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
As you get back to the tavern, you are waved over by the dwarf behind the bar. And the Orum says, Curtis, you expecting visitors?
Never.
Right, yeah, I thought so. There's a guy here asking around for you.
What kind of guy?
Fucking mean looking. I mean, not meaner than you, but, well, he's troubling. And he's upsetting the locals.
Where is he now?
He points over by the fire, and you notice, despite how cold it is, there's not a group sort of gathered round. You see someone sat there alone. He's got his back to you, and he just says, "Look, I don't know who he is, but lighten him up, would you? Or get him on his way."
Sure. I tap him on the shoulder.
He turns to look at you. He's a pretty grizzled-looking old dude, not the most cheerful kind of guy you've ever seen. But he looks at you with sort of recognition. You don't recognize him, but he seems to recognize you. Looks you up and down. Right. Curtis, yeah? We're not pretty enough to be Calvin. I'm asking.
And who the fuck are you?
Duran.
Of Duran?
Just Duran.
Calvin played with them a while back. Had nothing to do with them.
No association, unfortunately. No royalties either.
Oh. I see.
Right.
What's
We're
our
off to the
business?
room then. What do you mean, what's
Why?
our business?
I don't know who you are.
Yeah. Well, introduce myself. I'm Duran. You're Curtis. Calvin isn't here for some reason. I presume he's getting pissed somewhere. But the ladies are upstairs, so let's go. He stands up, stretches. Oh.
To what purpose?
Well, I ain't sleeping down here, and I ain't paying for a room, so one of you can put me up. And
I
he,
think you're going to explain who you are, my friend.
well, I'm traveling with you.
How do I know you?
Oh, you don't? We have a mutual friend.
Uh-huh.
Fucked up smile. Really miserable.
Mm-hmm.
Burned before reading.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Oh, don't you just look like a ray of sunshine? Yeah, I'm not fucking happy about it either. Come on.
All right. And I
And
Show him to a room.
As you guys get upstairs, you open the door, and Curtis enters, and Sarah, behind him, is a familiar face. And he looks you up and down. Right. Now let's try this again. And we're going to cut there, as we have preparations to make for the next campaign. Super exciting stuff. So, yeah. We've got a short turnaround here, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to go around real quick, do hooks and plugs, and say hi to everyone. Yeah.
That was the long march, my friends. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for that viewer decision there. That was a real good one. Sarah's just gonna love it. I can't wait for next week. Great. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to hit the follow button and join us, and stick around because we've got another game happening here in just a few minutes time. We are playing the World Tree Burns, which is our official Midgard campaign sponsored by Kobold Press. We're going into episode 2 of that show, so it's a great time to jump in and join in the adventure. But let's whiz around the cast and crew real quick. Do we enjoy ourselves? Where can we find you guys online? Let's start with Josh. What do you think of tonight's show, my friend?
You are muted.
He's just getting into character for the next one.
I'm just getting used to dual monitors and 1,000,001 other things, so it's been a bit chaotic. But thank you guys for bearing with me, as I'm really enjoying this. Dual monitors is awesome. Why didn't I do this 1,000,000 years ago? Anyway,
wait till you get the third one.
I know, I'm really excited. So, yeah, no, it was a blast playing with you guys as always. Thank you guys for the donations and wild magic surges and everything, and we're going to enjoy the company of Duran for the foreseeable future. Not Duran, unfortunately, just Duran. You can find me on Account of Roleplay here. You can also find me on Grimjack's channel on Fridays doing Firefly. And if you want to see me suffer, check out Uncloak's Pod. There we are.
Great stuff. Tia.
Hi, my name is Laura Lanny. In just a second, you're going to be able to click on my name in chat and hit follow. I also have a Dungeons and Dragons Discord, and I am going to be here in 5 minutes, so there's not really much point in me telling you much else. Stick around, go grab a snack, come watch some Midgard. It's going to be fun.
Great stuff. And Jess.
Sure, I am Jessica, Little Cup of Joe on Twitter and Twitch and basically everywhere. I will not be joining for Midgard, but I will be hanging out with you guys in chat, so stick around.
Great stuff. And Tool School.
Hey, I had a great time. Got to do a little fun Calvin stuff, so that was fun. And yeah, you can find me at Tall Squall all over the interwebs and social media. If you go to my Twitter account that's linked in the chat, you can find all the other stuff I'm in. Let me know you found me on the Long March.
Thank you so much, guys. We're going to head straight into our next game for the World Tree Burn. Stick around. We'll see you guys in a few seconds. Until then, try not to throw too many net ones. Would it be laughing when you do? Goodbye.